Hi guys, this is the second video for the 1 year milestone. Um, I've just done the story one, and this is the characters one. So this one won't be as long as the first one, really, but I still felt it was important to give not not any secrets away, not any extra information, that would spoil anything, but just discuss the nuances of the characters on like a top level. So in there's the prologue, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Several of the characters in the prologue, well, some of the characters in the prologue I should say, as you progress through the game, and some of them progress with you, depending on your choices, it might be less, it might be more. As that progression happens, I I didn't want them to be sort of robotic in their reaction to what's happening. Um, that's one of the things that really, like Resident Evil 1, the original, kind of didn't get quite right. I know it was a different time. It was like 1994, no, 1996 or 95 when it came out. But it's understandably it's a different time. So you can kind of use that excuse. But with this one, I want the characters to remember how you've interacted in certain scenarios, and if they've seen it, or they are, you could say, on the receiving end of something off the back of, let's say, particular quests, then that gets remembered. Um, yeah. So the prologue will have several characters, mostly what I'm calling interns, but you could call them trainees, you could call them um, juniors. They are graduates who have been successful when applying for this mission, and they've been brought aboard. I I wanted to, though it's a survival horror game, I wanted to not, I guess not necessarily break the mold, but have a bit, have a bit of character development there, and like NPC character development, which you do get with some more modern games, certainly games where they've put a fair bit of effort into it. A bit like Dead Space, like I won't spoil anything, I know I discussed Dead Space a few times, but some of those characters are radically different as you progress through, like certainly the prologue to Act 3, some of the characters polarizingly different. And that, to an extent, is what I'm trying to create. I understand I'm not really showing anything, I'm kind of just talking. I've just changed the bedroom, by the way, to Barry's bedroom. Um, so your character is John. You have a best friend called Barry. He has a girlfriend called Sarah. Sorry, no. Your best friend is Barry. He has a girlfriend called Jackie. So that's kind of your main relationship, and a relationship related to your main relationship. So as you can imagine, you can do a couple of quests where you, if you do something good for Barry, good for Jackie, and it benefits Barry, then it'll pass onwards. So this brings me to like Baldur's Gate 3 this attitude system. Lots of games have it, but I think Baldur's Gate 3 does it pretty good. I want to have something like that where, let's say you did a quest for Jackie and you get 22% plus in attitude. I want a portion of that, like a percentage scale portion of that, to then pass to Barry. Kind of secondary attitudes. A bit like if you did something good for your sibling, your parents may well be happy as well, or your siblings' friends may well be happy. So not just a linear, you've done something good, you get this thing. But no, it's like a family tree. It's almost like it's almost like an infection of goodwill. I want to do that, and in terms of how that will look, it won't. I really want it to change the dialogue predominantly. There'll be some scenarios where it could change the quest, um, potentially even change the ending of the game, of the four endings. But yeah, dialogue is the main thing because that's like the biggest thing you experience. Like if you've upset someone, you've made someone happy, the dialogue changes. You don't upset someone and then 6 weeks later they give you £5 less pocket money. Like it doesn't. That's not like in the real world maybe, but yeah, that doesn't. That's not a good system. That's almost too vague. And I know really good systems kind of just tick along in the background. They just flesh out the world, but that's so far in the background that's like not even visible. Meanwhile, dialogue, even if it's background dialogue, would would be really good. Another thing that Baldur's Gate 3 does very well. There's background dialogue there, and I'm not certain it changes, but I feel it must do. If you're a terrible person, the dialogue would change. Kind of like secondary dialogue. So I know I kind of go off on a tangent when I'm explaining stuff. I like to almost do like a vertical slice, like you're slicing through a cake. So I go on to the next bit, and then I get into like great detail of something, and then I come back out, and then I like to cut the next slice of information. That's just the way I am. So that's Barry and Jackie. You have other like more than acquaintance, less than like big like best friends characters. So people like Sarah, uh, and then you get different. Just like in the world, you can be like friends with many people, with like five people, and can have five different personalities. One's more protective, one's more jovial, one's more laid back, one's more intense. I want to do my best to make that come out, not just in the sprites and the animation, but also again in the dialogue. Um, not every character will be memorable, but if I can get the main characters and the secondary characters, so people like Barry, Jackie, Sarah, um, some others in Act 1 and Act 2, if I can get them memorable, then even a portion, that's quite an achievement. I don't know, talking about Baldur's Gate 3, but the companion system, they are not only memorable, but you can build quite a bond with them, and different types of bonds, as you can imagine, because it's like there's like the men, the women, the friends, the I don't really like this person, but I appreciate what they're doing. So it elicits those sort of emotions, like real life emotions, even though it's game. And I want to take advantage of that. Hopefully, it'll go well. Like it'll work quite well, at least quite well. If it works at all, I'll be pleased. In terms of the other characters, I'll try not to go through granularity, like granularity, the granularity of every single one. This is this person's name. This is this person's thing. But yeah, there's a lot of trainees, scientific trainees, medical trainees, um, engineering, and research. So I make a split between them, and research enemies will RNG drop. We'll have an RNG table to drop bespoke research type items. A bit like if you kill a red enemy, it might drop something red, but then it'll drop base items as well. Or you kill a blue enemy, it might drop something blue, but it'll still have base items. So like secondary unique items. Um, Pokemon. Pokemon's a good example, except from it's the items they drop rather than the actual creature. So there's that. There's the chefs, like kitchen staff, security, soldiers, but like space. Not I was going to say space marines, but not like Warhammer space marines. Just marines in space, like modern day marines. If you put them on a spaceship, so those sort of people. The communications side, so chief of staff, um, assistants, and then things like lead researchers, as well as standard researchers, as well as trainees. There's not an absolute boatload of people, but there there is there are tiers in them, and where there's tiers, there's also subsections of people. So as you can imagine, the security personnel is more likely to drop ammo than say a research trainee or like a chef. There will be an AI and good AI, bad AI, neutral AI. Um, I've incorporated that. Originally, I thought of giving it quite a big role, almost like a main antagonist. Now it can range, depending on what you decide, it can range from a temporary main antagonist to a secondary antagonist to never really being an antagonist at all. Just, I suppose, a bit like Hal off 2001: A Space Odyssey, where like he's evil, but right away it's not evil, but not something a bit more nuanced than that. Not like you've wronged the AI. You do you don't do something the AI wants you to do, so you just bad mode. Something a bit more subtle than that. Some of the characters go to the stages of infection. So I haven't really discussed this before on this, but there's the stage 1 infected, stage 2 infected, stage 3 infected, and then there's like the lab style, a bit like Resident Evil if they incorporated a couple of middle steps. I suppose in the remake of Resident Evil 1, there's the standard zombies and then there's the Crimson Head zombies. So that would be a good example of like stage 1 and a stage 2, except from my stage 1s will talk Stage 1 is almost like a psychosis. Stage 2 is more classically, like, let's say, a standard zombie. Stage 3 would, like, the mutations get progressively worse. Um, and some of the characters that you interact with, some of them make it, some of them don't make it, some of them go through the stages of transformation. So, because you know these characters, you. How to explain it? Resident Evil Apocalypse, the second film, the Nemesis creature, don't spoil the first film, but the Nemesis creature knows like the protagonist somehow. And like in other films, there's a moment of, oh, is that person still there? And then like it's gone in a flash. It stays for a moment and then it's gone. Because you know some of these characters, that then becomes stage 1 infected and stage 2 infected. You you see them transition through their psychosis, but also they interact with you a certain way. So if it's a complete stranger who's a crazy person, they might just attack you just like in real life. But let's say you know this person, you've known them for a long while, and they go crazy and attack you. There's a good chance they're going to communicate. They might know your name. They should know your name. They talk to you. There's a bit of dialogue there. It's not as blunt as making your character's best friend go through like psychosis or your best friend's girlfriend. Nothing as blunt as that. I know that kind of popped into my head as like a very obvious thing. Uh, I'd like to make the characters as obscure as possible without it being absolutely infuriating. So mystery, but not mystery for the sake of mystery. No, I'll tell you after you've done this, or I'll tell you after I've done that. Nothing as painful as that, painfully blunt as that. Um, yeah, some characters and kind of put other characters in a particular light, and then that light that you perceive them in because like Chinese whispers, so he's not very nice, don't trust him. And yeah, I guess that kind of goes along, takes advantage of the like, do you go along with the crowd? Do you believe what people say, or you like, do you think for yourself? Um, Bioshock, the the good guy bad guy thing. Don't want to spoil it. Hopefully they remake it. It's absolutely brilliant. But Bioshock, for a long time in that game, there's very clear lines drawn in the sand. Uh, antag- uh, Antagonist, good guy helping you out, and then things very quickly don't become clear lines drawn in the sand. There's a there's aspects of that for some of the characters. Some of the characters will be situations where you you might help them, or you might do something inadvertently help them, and then that will open up extra side quests. I don't want to make it as blunt as side quest 1, side quest 2, because it's like survival horror. It's not a questing adventure game. So yeah, but you can do something which would then allow you to save someone else, or the option comes up to save someone else. Um, let's think. Resident Evil 1, the original, and the remake. If you play as Jill, again, I don't want to spoil it. another. I'm I'm trying to be extra careful about spoiling not just this game but everything else. You have the chance to save someone right before the end of the game, but that only happens if you do a couple of other things and you happen to go down there. But you might not do that, and that might never happen. So I don't want it to be a do this side quest if you want to sort of thing. I want it to be like a revelation, like there's this. This has come out of nowhere. I didn't know about this. That sort of mindset. Um, yeah, and I've seen quite a lot. I'm looking at the screen and thinking at the same time. Some some characters might appear as good, might appear as bad. Um, I've got to stop saying some. Uh, some motives appear pure, and in the end they're not pure or they're diluted. It's not black and white. There's an awful lot of grey. I think that's the best way to describe the characters. There's an awful lot of grey. Just like everyone in the world, there's an awful lot of grey. You're very unlikely to see someone who's 100% bad or 100% good. Not without them having something wrong with them. For being such an outlier, it's they'd really stick out like a sore thumb. A lot of characters, apart from the enemies that are just they don't know you, they're too far gone, they're messed up in a bad way. They are just technically, I don't even know if you could call them bad, because if a crazy person does a bunch of stuff, is he bad or is he crazy? So yeah, I guess you could say they have ill intent. The enemies. I really want to do a good service. I don't want to make a fantastically fun game that has elements that really fall short and ruin it. A really good example of that would be Skyrim when it first came out. Absolutely fantastic, absolutely amazing. But then they got rid of the ability to make your own spells. There was in Oblivion you could do it, and there was a couple of other things where the best way to describe it is I don't want something to look absolutely fantastic and you're living in this world of this is a great game, everything about it's brilliant, and then the veil is pulled from your eyes because some systems fall short. This is kind of veering off the topic of characters, but I felt it was useful to say to describe how the characters will be a key part, just like all the other parts of the game are key parts. I do not want any particular game to be any particular part of the game to suffer from lack of attention and dedication to it. In terms of the dialogue, well, let's hope I don't put a bunch of times in. um, I will spend an awful lot of time not only doing the dialogue actually, but also the lore. So the files, the computers, like you see that computer there, I'll have it where you can go up to it and use it, and the screen will pop up. I'll do a little animation to do the light, and then I'll get like a little widget to pop up in the front, and you'll be able to read it and scroll down. Or let's say there's something in the floor on the floor like rubbish like there is in the protagonist, like your character John, his bedroom. Let's say you can pick that up and you can click on it and it'll unravel, and that'll be a widget, like a widget that pops up a user interface, and that'll have some writing in it, emails, PDAs, radio, all these different things, all will need a subtlety put to it, because not only does it need to read well, it needs to read as if that character has wrote it. So if Jackie sent something to Barry, he needs to read like Jackie sent something to Barry. He needs to not read like John has sent something as Jackie to Barry, or yourself playing as John has sent something as Jackie to Barry. Each thing needs to be siloed to its respective area. That will take some time and no doubt some user testing. I am half tempted to get family involved to write how they would respond, so make it truly objective, or truly objective to myself. It obviously is like their subjectivity for how they speak, but it's not me masquerading, trying to be another character. It is a completely different person masquerading to be another character. This video has gone on quite a bit. I did think it would be a bit shorter, but you can tell I'm just talking about all sorts. So this is what I've discussed is the character, not only the character development, but that your character development, the NPC character development, the relationship between the enemies, the NPCs, yourself, the greyness between like good and evil, black and it's not black and white, attitude affecting dialogue. Really simple. Feels like a really simple thing to do, but a really good thing to do. Because you just have two different flavors of dialogue as well, like good, bad, or like good, bad, neutral. So technically, it feels very, very good, very simple to do, and it could yield quite a bit of replayability to it as well. Because if you're playing a nasty person, they will respond a certain way, and so on and so forth the other ways. And I think that's it. I will have the characters. They will have their own AI behavior. They will have their own blueprint. They will be self-contained to themselves. So a bit like everyone's got their own equivalent of everything. So like animation blueprint, standard blueprint, AI behavior tree. The NPCs will definitely have their own AI behavior trees, almost all of them. Some of the more, I don't want to say generic, but less main, less secondary, kind of like tertiary characters. If they're just walking about a bit and they're just talking, they can share a decision tree. Sorry, that's machine learning. Behavior tree. They can share it. Yeah, they will. Some will be able to fight, so they'll be able to cause damage. But that isn't all I'm completely trying to go for. I'm not trying to go through like you and three companions, gear up and just take loads of enemies out. No. Similar to Resident Evil again, where there are other survivors and they do shoot on occasion and they do attack things on occasion, but it's not multiplayer. It's not you and a bunch of NPCs shooting up zombies. No, it's more kind of circumstantial and just by chance, rather than it being like, oh, let's get these guys, let's pull a bunch of these enemies to these guys and these guys will attack them. No, not so much like that. hopefully you found this insightful. The next video will be, one second, I will double check. It will be purpose, and then it will be passion. As I said before, purpose will be not your purpose in the game, but the purpose of the game. And yeah, passion. Passion kind of is injected into like video 1, 2, and 3, as you can tell by the way I'm discussing it. But really, like what drives me, my technical background, my academic background, just my background in general, what I want to what I want to where I want to go post this. So yeah, purpose and passion, they kind of muddled a bit, but I'll do my best to split them apart. Yeah, so thank you for your time, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.